Organizations spend heavily on employee assistance programs and wellness initiatives, yet they continue to experience unexplained performance drift, chronic vacancy loops, and leadership burnout. Clinical illness, the primary focus of legacy programs, represents only the final point of failure. It accounts for a fraction of an organization's actual vulnerability. This cross-section reveals the systemic failure, the missing middle. These employees carry high cognitive loads but aren't clinically ill. Undetected by medical models, their fatigue causes hidden operational costs, daily presenteeism, strained manager relationships, and unpredictable execution errors. Standard EAPs and insurance models miss this upstream erosion. They act as reactive repair mechanisms, waiting for an employee to break before offering therapy. Traditional HR solutions cannot fix structural risk. An organization's cognitive capacity is an operational asset, not a culture perk. To protect decision quality and stabilize operations, we install a mental wealth system. This integrated, prevention-first operating system captures risk before it translates into financial leakage. Managing organizational cognitive load is an infrastructural requirement. Securing it requires moving past individual healthcare benefits and treating human capability with the same rigor as operational reliability. Every effective infrastructure relies on accurate data, and in a performance system, that data comes directly from the workforce. The foundational axiom here is absolute. Zero trust means zero disclosure, which results in zero utilization. Internal HR teams often struggle to gather these early failure signals. Trust is difficult to maintain when it is filtered through inherent employment power dynamics. Employees will instinctively self-censor if they believe disclosing fatigue or cognitive strain might negatively impact their next performance review or their career trajectory. They stay silent until a failure occurs. We resolve this by installing an independent firewall as the mandatory first layer of the architecture. This barrier strictly governs data movement. It allows aggregated, anonymized insights to pass through to leadership, while automatically blocking individual, identifiable responses. The firewall enforces a strict purpose limitation. It permanently separates sensitive clinical care data from human resources and performance management processes. Leadership receives operational value, segmentation mapping, risk indicators, and utilization metrics, with absolute zero exposure to individual clinical files. Employees, in turn, receive guaranteed confidentiality. They gain a safe environment for disclosure and clear routing to support, insulated from employment risk. Defensible data confidentiality operates as the mechanical engine of the entire system. Without it, the infrastructure sits unused. Once trust secures the data flow, the system shifts from reactive care to timeline mapping. Corporate stress is rarely random. Organizations experience predictable cycles of pressure. We identify these high-pressure periods as Red Sea moments, predictable windows of extreme operational strain where performance stability is highly vulnerable. These moments align with strict corporate rhythms, annual reporting cycles, safety-critical seasons, compliance audits, or major organizational restructuring phases. Standard wellness programs wait for employees to break during these storms. An infrastructural approach maps the weather and prepares the environment in advance. This anticipatory mapping protocol identifies exactly when failure signals are likely to emerge. We deploy targeted interventions directly onto the timeline, weeks ahead of the scheduled pressure spike. During these preparation windows, we implement distinct operational tactics: load shedding for non-critical tasks, anchoring decision routines, and heightening manager check-in cadences. By anticipating the friction, executives preserve decision quality and maintain operational stability exactly when the business is most exposed to risk. Infrastructure anticipates failure signals and fortifies the environment.
Therapy simply treats the casualties afterward. Executing these anticipatory routines relies heavily on the direct manager. They are the essential first line of defense in observing behavioral and operational failure signals. Organizations often make a critical error by expecting managers to absorb the emotional weight of their teams. Managers must not act as therapists. Their mandate is operational control and early identification, not clinical intervention. To support managers, the system employs a split-lane pathways architecture. When a manager identifies a failure signal, the system routes it through a clear triage gate. Lane A focuses strictly on preventative support. It captures individuals in the missing middle through early operational adjustments, peer support, and resilience coaching before their cognitive load turns into a crisis. Lane B handles clinical escalation. It correctly identifies severe cases and routes them directly to specialized EAP or clinical care, ensuring that scarce medical capacity is protected and utilized efficiently. This exact task-sharing protocol relieves managers of intense cognitive burden and removes the liability of untrained clinical diagnosis from the leadership tier. Split-lane routing operates as a structural dam. It stops the massive volume of the missing middle from overflowing into expensive downstream repair. For the CFO and the board of directors, a system is only valid if it enables controllable risk and cost governance. Board-level skepticism often stems from the fact that wellness spend is rarely linked to measurable outcomes, leaving hidden cost leakages unchecked. The infrastructure resolves this through its measurement layer. This financial dashboard connects internal utilization metrics directly to standard operational indicators. We establish clear correlations. By tracking utilization trends alongside error rates, dispute volumes, and turnover costs, the system provides a data-driven view of operational stability. While a standard EAP reports how many people accessed a therapist, this system monitors how utilization influences the stability of the organization's work. This data is governed by a strict reporting cadence, operating on a weekly learning loop during pilot phases and scaling into comprehensive quarterly oversight packs for the board. With these correlations established, finance can track well-being spend with the same rigor used for any other controllable risk, turning a vague cost into a measurable component of governance. To function as a true control system, these architectural blocks, the firewall, the Red Sea mapping, the pathways, and the measurement, must operate together. The ultimate rule of this infrastructure is the operating system principle. Unbundling breaks the system. Attempting to piece together generic therapists, internal wellness apps, and fragmented HR policies fails because these components lack structural connective tissue. This comparison reveals two approaches. On the left, isolated programs grind against each other. On the right, integrated layers compound value. The stack is entirely interdependent. Without the firewall, you cannot establish trust. Without trust, no failure signals to route. Without routing, no valid measurement. Organizational outcomes don't come from a collection of isolated activities. They require the full integrated architecture. The ultimate mandate of executive leadership is execution reliability and leadership continuity. Human cognitive capacity drives every decision within the organization. When this capacity is protected, it functions as the central engine of development and operational reliability. Protecting the decision quality of that workforce is a governed, structural responsibility. It cannot be delegated to generic resilience training or left to individuals to figure out alone. It is time to move past the noise of wellness theater and empty awareness campaigns. Install a mental wealth system. Prioritize structural trust. Implement strict measurement and secure your organization's performance infrastructure.